Welcome to the Inner Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm Paul Ryan, and today I'm going to talk to you about energy vampires. So we all know energy vampires, people who just drain energy. And you probably have them in your workplace. You maybe have them in your circle of friends or your family. So how do you recognize them and how do you deal with them? Well, recognizing them fairly simple. You just pay attention to your body. So when you interact with anybody, you will have one of three reactions. So the first possibility when you meet anyone is you get no reaction. You don't feel any better or you don't feel any worse. So it's just a kind of neutral experience with some people. With other people, they fill you with energy. You just love being in their company because when you're in their company, you feel great. And when you leave their company, you feel better. You feel like you've been enriched. You feel like you've been nourished by being in their presence. And there are people who feed you with energy. But there's the third type of people, the people who drain your energy. And you know those people. You probably dread going into their presence. You probably dread finding they're coming over or they're going to be at a party or a family event you're going to. Or you probably dread if they're going to be in an office you're working in. And those people are energy vampires. They're people who just suck the energy out of you. Now, what we have to realize is there's two types of energy vampires, or two situations where you'll feel like you're with an energy vampire or you'll feel like your energy is being drained. And there's the temporary situation and there's the permanent situation. So we all come across challenges in our lives and times in our lives when our energy is very, very low because we're on an uphill battle or because something serious has happened to us in our personal life, in our family, in our business, in our career. And we really are just swamped, overwhelmed by it. And when that happens to a friend of yours and you're in their company, you will pick up on their energy. And you may leave their company feeling drained and feel like they've sucked the life out of you. But you know, they're lovely people, but they're just going through a very, very difficult time and they need your support. And so even though you recognize that at this point in time, temporarily, they're an energy vampire to you, you still decide you need to give them support. You need to be there for them. And the other type of people are people who are always energy vampires. So it's nothing to do with what's going on in their life. It's not because they have a particular event. It's just they're always draining, difficult people to deal with. So first off, you have to recognize both of those. And so the way I look at it is like this. A friend of yours is moving into a new apartment or a new house, and he says, hey, would you be around next weekend to help me move? On Friday, we got to load up a truck and shift everything. And then we got to spend Saturday kind of tidying the house up and putting everything in. And you've just got a full weekend of work. And because it's a good friend of yours and they do it for you, you say no problem. So you give your whole Friday evening, all day Saturday and all day Sunday, and you go over and you work in their house. And then at the end of Sunday evening, they're moved in, they're all settled. You share a beer together, a glass of wine, and you toast the work you've done. And you're drained because it was a really hard weekend and you're back to work on Monday. But it was a once off and you want to help them. Most of us are really happy to do that. And most of us are also happy when one of our friends will help us out in that situation. So that's when you're giving your energy to someone, but it's for a temporary situation. And that's kind of like what the temporary energy vampire is. So there's someone who may drain your energy or require your energy or your support, but it's just for a temporary situation. If that same friend calls you and says, every single weekend for the next year, I want you to come to my house. I want you to help me to build it, to repaint it, redecorate it, or do whatever. That's something you're going to go, hold on a moment. I'm not giving you every weekend. I can give you a couple of weekends, but I'm not going to spend every weekend of my year or my life taking care of your home because then I will just have no time for me. And that's what a long-term energy vampire is. Someone who doesn't want you to help out for the weekend. They want to drain you continually. So you have to recognize which type of place the person is in, which type of energy vampire they are. And what I'm really talking about is these people who just are lifelong energy vampires. They're a continuous drain on your energy and they are literally burning you out. And you have to recognize it and you have to do something about it. You have to take an action to change the situation. So you must realize that energy is your fuel. It's how you do everything. There is nothing, zero happens in your life if you don't have energy and if you don't give energy to it. And you only have so much energy. When you get out of bed in the morning, you have X amount of energy. And you spend that energy throughout the day. And throughout the day, you use that energy to pursue the things you want to do. And by the end of the evening, well, your energy has pretty much drained and you need to refuel. You need to sleep. You need to rest. And that's how we live. So we only have so much energy in a day. We only have so much energy in a week or in a year. And we need to refuel. We need to refill our batteries to make sure that we have the energy to focus on and do the things we want to do. And what you can't afford is to have somebody bleeding that energy. And so you pay for your electricity, you pay for your Wi-Fi, you pay for your Netflix subscriptions, all these things, utilities in your house that you pay for. If your neighbor secretly started tapping onto your Wi-Fi so he didn't have to pay for his, and started using your log-on subscriptions to Netflix or Amazon Prime, and started tapping into your cable so that he was using your energy, you wouldn't be too happy with that. Your costs would start rising and you'd go, what's going on? I'm using all this energy, but obviously I'm not using it from my house, from my family. You would not be very happy with your neighbor doing that. You would not be very happy with someone plugging into your resources and draining them. And you have to realize that when you're in the presence of an energy vampire, that is what they're doing. They're plugging into your resources. They're plugging into something that you have worked hard to get in your life, and they're trying to drain that for you instead of sorting it out in their own life. So the first thing you have to do is recognize who are the energy vampires in your life. Who are the people you need to be very, very cautious of and to limit your time interacting with them. You see, when they interact with you, they part leaving better because they've dumped their problems on you and they've absorbed some of your positive energy, but you leave worse because they've sucked away some of your energy, they've drained some of your energy, and they've dumped a whole load of their misery, a whole load of the problems on you. So you have to have some very specific tools and techniques to deal with people like these so you can begin to eliminate them from your life. And first thing I suggest is when engaging in conversation with energy vampires, make sure they're all closed conversation. And closed conversations mean you want to be very mindful of how you speak to them. And a lot of times we speak without thinking. So we instinctively ask people, how are things? How are you getting on? What's going on in your life? We ask people these questions when we meet them. They're general questions. You want to be very careful because you do not want to ask those questions of an energy vampire because you're giving them an opening. You open the door to let them into your house to dump all their misery in, and you do not want to do that. So you want to have closed conversations. So don't ask them questions about their lives. Don't offer them information about your life. Don't offer to meet up with them. You know, sometimes you're parting from someone, you go, hey, yeah, I'll give you a call or let's meet for a coffee. These are throwaway comments, and sometimes we mean them, sometimes we don't. But you want to be very deliberate with an energy vampire. Do not offer to call them. Do not offer to take their call. Do not offer to meet up with them. You have to be very close and make sure all your conversations are ending. They're not going any further. You do not want to give them an opening by asking them, hey, how are things going? Because you know an hour later, you're going to be really sorry you asked that question. So you've got to make sure your questions are closed and they're not leading to further engagement, to further contact, and they're not leading to you having to be drained of energy. So what you're really doing here is you're prioritizing your own well-being, because what the energy vampire are doing is prioritizing their well-being. And to support their well-being, they're more than happy to drain your energy. They're more than happy to dump on you. And what you have to do, you have to draw a clear line and be very clear that you need to prioritize your own well-being, and you need to leave people who are not willing to take care of their own well-being. You need to leave them to themselves. You don't want to let them drain you, because if you drain you, once you part company, they will feel better and you will feel worse. If you know you're heading into a social occasion or you're heading into a professional situation and you know there's going to be someone there who's an energy vampire and who's always draining your energy, then you need to go unprepared. Now, I tend to be known for two things that are really high interest to me. One is meditation. I've been a daily meditator for almost 40 years. Everyone in my circle knows that I'm passionate about meditation. The other thing most people know about me is I have a high priority on personal finances and personal wealth. And it's something I've prioritized for a lot of my life. I've prioritized it in my business life And I've prioritized it in investments and learning about both business and investments so I could become financially independent and financially free. So these are two topics that people see me as knowing a lot about, having an expertise in. I find that when I meet the energy vampires, they tend to plug into either of those slots. So they will come to me and they will endeavor to drain my energy talking about how stressed they are, how anxious they are, how the problems they have in their life, because they know I possibly have some solutions from my experience in meditation and personal development. The other thing they'll do is they'll come and talk about the financial problems and they'll complain about all their financial woes, hoping I have some solutions for them. Now, there's two very clear distinctions I want to make here. If someone comes to talk to me about either of those situations and they come with a genuine interest in having a solution or exploring a solution that might help them and then taking action to fix their lives, I will give them almost as much time and support as they need, because I really want to help and support people who want to make their lives better, who want to create the lives they want. But often the energy vampire is not speaking to you because they want to make their life better. They don't actually want to make their life better, because usually they're 100% in victim mode. They want to complain about their lives. They may want you to make their life better, but they don't actually want to take responsibility for making their own life better. They just want to dump on you. And a number of years ago, I came up with a very simple solution to this problem. So someone would approach me, talk about how stressed they were, what was going on, and I would very clearly pick up in conversation whether or not they actually wanted to fix the problem or they just wanted to drain my energy. So I came up with a very simple answer. I would ask them right away if they wanted me to give them a solution. I could immediately spot from the response. Sometimes people would light up and go, yeah, if there's anything you can tell me, I'd love to do it. And some people will say yes, but you can say, I don't really want a solution if it requires me actually having to do some work, if it requires me actually to take some responsibility. But either way, I will offer them a tool. Now, by offering them a tool, I've closed the conversation. So I close the conversation very, very quickly, but I will offer them some help. I will offer them a solution. So when people want to talk to you about meditation and mindfulness, I will go, can I make a suggestion to you? If they say yes, I will say, every morning before you get out of bed or just after you get out of bed, spend 5 minutes in meditation. Go to an app, go to YouTube and search for a 5-minute guided meditation and spend the first 5 minutes of your day in meditation. And then at the end of the day, before you go to sleep, do the same. Spend the last 5 minutes before you go to sleep in a guided meditation. So that's twice a day. Before you get up and before you go to sleep, 5 minutes guided meditation. And I asked them, would you be willing to do that every day, commit to it every day for the next 90 days? Now they may say yes, they may say no. If they say yes, I go, great, let's talk about it in 90 days when you've done that, conversation over. If they start giving excuses as to why they wouldn't have the time to do that, again, I cut the conversation and I go, well, let me know when you're ready to do that. I will walk away. I've closed the conversation. So again, if someone wants to talk about the finances and they're complaining about the financial problems, I'll go, okay, first thing is write down a budget. Figure out what your income is and what you're spending and write down a detailed budget and figure out how for the next 90 days you can live within your means. So for the next 90 days, I want you to track your income, track your outgoings, and make sure you adhere to your budget. Can you do that for the next 90 days? So once I've given them that challenge, I'm open to talking to them about it again in 90 days time, but I'm not going to discuss it with them in between. They either can do it or they are not do it. That's not my concern, but I've closed the conversation. Now, the reality is most people simply won't do that because most people want to complain about their problems. They don't want a solution to their problems, and they certainly don't want a solution to their problems that requires them taking some personal responsibility to actually step up and go, I am responsible for making my life better. And I have a lot of time for people who want to make their life better, and I have very little time for people who just want to drain my energy, but really don't want to take any responsibility for making their life better. And what those two tactics have enabled me to do is to very quickly close conversations, to very quickly end a conversation where someone wants to moan to me, and to very quickly turn that into something they have to do, and they have the option of coming back to me in 90 days time. So most people will never come back to you on it. and they will stop being energy vampires to you because they realize simply you're not going to listen to their moaning, you're not going to listen to their bullshit. Because when they come back, you can go, well, did you do it? And they say, well, I didn't. End of conversation. Do it, and when you have it done, come back to me. So over the years, I've managed to do that with anyone that was an energy vampire in their life. And people learn very, very quickly, Paul is not open to having his energy drained. I'm just not in that space. It's not going to happen. So what you need to do in your life is be aware of the people who are energy vampires. Be aware of how they can drain your energy and how damaging that can be for you. You can offer them help if you wish, but you offer them help in a very specific way that passes responsibility to them. And if they're not willing to take responsibility, then you cut them off, then you leave them to come back to you when they're open to take responsibility. In this life, you have a limited amount of energy, and that energy is yours to create the best life you can for yourself, for your family, for those who love. I believe everyone has that opportunity, but also everyone has a responsibility. Everyone has a responsibility for themselves to create the best lives that they can. And when people don't want to do that, and when people want to be victims and they want to suck the energy out of you, well, I simply have no time for that. And my suggestion is that you follow these tools and remove those people for your life so that the energy you have, you can focus on creating the life you want to live. This is The Inner Entrepreneur. I'm Paul Ryan, and thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed the show. What I notice is that so many people listen to the show but don't subscribe, and it really helps the show if you would subscribe. So please hit that subscribe button. It really helps. Until next week, take care.